show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative.
Hey, what's up, guys? I want to say this really quick. I don't have a problem with somebody having a GoFundMe. I really don't. It just seems like the Gonzalez family are abusing GoFundMe. I mean, they've had three. 3 GoFundMes. And they want $75,000 to go to the trial next year. Which they are entitled to raise money to go to the trial of Brian Koberger next year. But when you're getting offers from citizens there in Ada County for free Airbnb, free food, free gas, exactly why do you need the GoFundMe? I don't think if you're getting all this offers for free stuff, you don't need a GoFundMe. You don't. And we know Ben Mogan has a GoFundMe, and the Laramuses as well. And Ben Mogan has stated that he's going to take a few people, probably about 2 or 3, for moral support. And Ben Mogan has stated that whatever money he doesn't use next year, he'll donate to the Memorial Fund for the victims. And the Laramuses will probably do the same. But the Gonzalez family is bringing 10 people. 10. And they're looking for an Airbnb that holds 10 people. Why so many people? Why not maybe 2 or 3? Because we're talking is Stephen Christie, Steve Jr., Olivia and her husband, their kids, this elderly couple, Autumn, and then a few others. That's a lot of people. And then they're wanting help to go out and do fun stuff. And go out for pizza. Which they're entitled to do. It's their money. It's their life. If they want to go out and do all this stuff, while at the same time going to the murder trial, there's just something very odd with this family. I can't put my finger on it. There's something very odd with this family. And I don't know what it is. And there's another enigma in this case, and that's Hunter Johnson. He's a enigma. During one of the noise complaints, you had this girl answer the door, which looked like his girlfriend Emily. A lot of people say it was Bethany, but it was his girlfriend Emily. And then she was looking throughout the house for the people that lived there. Hunter Johnson came to the door and said no one that lived there was home. And then you had Blaker say, I've been a cop for 22 years. I'm not stupid. All I'm asking is for you guys to turn it down. And since the residents aren't home, I could book you guys for breaking and entering because you're in a house without none of the residents being home. And then when they came out for another noise complaint, you had Kaylee who came out. Hunter Johnson followed her out he had like zip ties around his wrist. But he sat there the whole time and was just looking at her. And the look he gave was, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. And then she handed her ID over to the officer, and he either took a picture of it or scanned it, whatever he did. And then as soon as she got it back, Hunter Johnson got up and walked in the house. Is Sigma Chi the kings of 1122 King Road? More than likely, yeah. They run their parties out of there, and they run their parties out of other houses in the area. And that home is an iconic home because it sits on Greek Row. And I'd like to know exactly what happened in the 8-hour gap. And we've all heard, guys. We've all heard that Brian's car pinged in the area at 9 in the morning that Sunday morning. Here's something to think about. What if he was part of the cleanup crew? I mean, he was going to school to get his PhD in criminology. What if the reason why his car allegedly pinged in the area 9 in the morning, he was part of the cleanup crew? Because if you remember, there was that 8-hour gap between the murders and calling 911. Oh, what if he was part of the people helping them clean the crime scene up? Because you could tell the crime scene had been cleaned up because they found a latent van shoe print barely visible, and they didn't see it until the second processing of the home. Okay, so what does that imply? That implies that was cleanup. Who was involved in the cleanup? Well, who lived at the house? Dylan and Bethany. And you had all those other people over there that morning. So instead of calling 911, they called all their friends over. Why'd they call all their friends over? I don't know, maybe to help clean up a crime scene? Maybe to help get something out of the house that they didn't want found? Because the sororities were already on probation for some stuff that was going on. It just makes you think. This entire case makes you think. It does. With all the narratives, all the oddities in this case is a very odd case and a very narrative-driven case. This case makes you go, what the fuck? It does. The only narrative that should matter right now is the courtroom narrative. Brian is innocent until proven guilty. And I repeat, innocent. Are you listening, Nancy Grace? Innocent until proven guilty. Instead of the other that you and the mainstream media darlings like to push. He's guilty, guilty, guilty. He hasn't even been to trial yet. But yet, us, the ones that believe he's innocent, are the bad people because we haven't seen the crime scene photos. Yeah, we are all not nice people because we believe he's innocent. And we're fanatics, and we adore him like a cult leader. Oh, please save me your nonsense and your tireless dribble, Nancy Grace. Please. Save it. Here's a quarter. Call someone who cares. Just like the old song by Travis Tritt, here's a quarter, call it someone who cares. And then we have just basically everything else in this case. Oh, and we have the Gonzalez family. If you're pro defendant, you're not allowed to be on their page. If you're pro defendant, we are not on the same page, so I ask you to leave our family page. If you're not with us, you're against us. You know, stuff like that makes you guys look like you're evil, vile, and disgusting. Because we all want justice for the victims. Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. And the families are not, I repeat, are not the victims. They are the families of the victims. So, Steve, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Yeah, you can tell I don't like the Gonzalez family. Because for the last, mind you, the last 2 years, all we've heard was the narrative by Stephen Christie on Banfield, on Inton, on Nancy Grace, on this one, on that one. And Christie stating in an interview that she'll forgive Brian once he's not on the planet anymore. And she hopes he suffers in the very depths of hell. Please, you guys don't even know he did it. Now, I had a conversation with my sister-in-law last night, and we were discussing suspect vehicle 1. Think about this. If there was one lone attacker, it would be suspect vehicle, would it not, guys? Suspect vehicle 1 implies there's more than one vehicle. There could be suspect vehicle 2 and suspect vehicle 3. And my sister-in-law made this very great and valid point. She stated, and I quote, if there was only one killer, it would take longer than 8 minutes to murder somebody, because you have one person and 6 people in the home. The more the people, the faster the time. So, 2 people upstairs killing Maddie and Kaylee, and 2 people on the second floor doing the same thing to Ethan and Xana. So, could be possibly 4 killers. Or 2 killers. And Brian possibly being the cleanup guy the next day. Because he doesn't look like somebody that's going to just run up in the house and kill 4 people. No. He looks like someone who's going to come in the house and clean up the scene. I feel that he cleaned up the scene that night, or I should say that day. That's why there was an 8-hour gap. And the whole thing with the 8-hour gap. How do we know that the whole description by Dylan, 5'10" or taller, athletically built, but not muscular, bushy eyebrows, wearing a face mask? How do we know that wasn't, if she wasn't coerced or coached to give that type of description. She could have been coached by Mallory and Payne on everything that she said that morning. Very possibility she could have been coached. The whole "it's okay, I'm going to help you" doesn't sound like a murderer at all. Sounds like a LE or paramedics or even fire. But I'm tired of all this narrative going around. Oh well, especially by the mainstream media. Oh well, Brian did it. Brian did it. Brian did it. Well, we don't know if he did it because we haven't seen crap. The mainstream media is the reason why it got moved out of Latah, as well as also the Gonzalez family's uh, fault. It got moved out of Latah because with their own jury surveys. Because they're wanting this man dead. Steve and Christy, they're wanting him dead. And they throw their little fist because he's wearing a suit and tie. He's not in his orange jumpsuit. Hey, Steve, how about this? Butt out and be quiet. The Kernodles are not doing what you're doing. Neither are the Laramies, neither is Ben Mogan, neither is the Chapins. They are the only families that has kept silent. So the courtroom narrative can take place. Your family is the only family that's mucking this whole case up because you can't stay quiet, because you act like the only person that mattered that was murdered was Kaylee. I'm sorry to say, but that's true. You act like the only person that matters in these murders is your daughter, when she wasn't the only person that got murdered. Madison Mogan got murdered, Xander Kernodle got murdered, and Ethan Chapin got murdered. I understand you love your daughter very much. I do. I understand that. And I don't know what would happen if something like this happened to my daughter. But you know what I would do? I would want justice served. I wouldn't be up on TV doing interview after interview after interview. I would let justice take its course and be served. I would stay silent until after the court proceedings. And I wouldn't have Nancy Grace kissing my butt like you did the other night. Just this whole thing, all these narratives. All these narratives. The only narrative that should count and the only narrative that has taken place right now is the courtroom narrative. The constitutional right to a fair trial, the constitutional right to guilty until proven innocent, the constitutional right to face his accusers. But you know what? Steve is not allowing that to happen. Steve is mucking up this whole trial coming up. So is Christy. Because they can't stay silent. They have to have their 10 minutes of fame on TV. And that irritates the crap out of me, guys. It does. It irritates me. They have to have their 10 minutes of fame when all the other families involved in this case aren't saying nothing. So, Steve, is this what you meant by "don't make me be the alpha"? Is that what you meant by it? because things aren't going your way, you're being the alpha now. To hell with your alpha. The only thing we want is justice for the victims. Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie. That's all we want. We want justice for the victims. Is that too much to ask without having the Gonzalez family mock us and ridicule us because we feel that Brian is innocent? If you're not with us, you're against us. Fine. Steve and Christy, fine. We're against you. So please, do like the other families. Fade away into the background. We're tired of hearing from you. You're screwing this case all up. It was your fault. The change of venue got moved. The trial got moved to Ada County. It's your fault because you did your own jury surveys. What did Shannon Gray? Did you tell Shannon Gray you were going to do this? And I bet you I know what Shannon Gray would have said. Don't. Please, don't. Don't. You're going to mess everything up. Don't. And look what happened. Now they're all mad and butthurt that the trial got moved to Ada County. They're totally oblivious it was their fault. But, you know, I ain't got nothing against the Gonzalez family. I mean, I do to a point. But I'm not trying to attack the victims or the victims' families. I'm just right now speaking my opinion and what's on my mind. And I feel that they've done tremendous harm to this case with them and their narrative. And I wish that they would do like the other victims' family, like the Chapins, the Knodels, the Laramies, and the Mogans. Fade away into the background. We don't want to hear from you anymore. So, yeah. All I gotta say to the Gonzalez is, I understand what you're going through. You lost a family member. You lost your daughter. You have my condolences and my sympathies on that. But stop running around acting like horses' asses. And when just like on Banfield, I'm starting to wonder. A lot of people say, "Oh, the frats aren't involved. The frats aren't involved." Well, if you look at it in the corner in the body cam, you can see 4 or 5 people running under a streetlight or walking real fast under the streetlight away from the home at, I believe, 3 something in the morning towards Sigma Chi. Yeah, yeah, I don't believe the murders took place before. I think they were earlier. But of course, guys, none of that matters because suspect vehicle 1 didn't come into the scene until 3:29, according to the Moscow PD. Are they really going to believe Dylan and Bethany? I don't. Dylan was on the first floor, so she didn't have a run-in with with the killer, but Dylan did. And if she had to run in with the killer, why is she still alive? And don't tell me well, he was exhausted after killing 4 people. if his adrenaline was going, if this person's adrenaline was going, he could have easily took out Dylan. But he didn't. And what I think is because Dylan knew the person that was doing the killings. Her and Bethany both was probably told to shut up and don't say a word. You didn't see us, we weren't here. So what did Dylan do? She made up this story about a lone individual. Because you got to think about it. If it was just one person, it wouldn't be suspect vehicle 1, it would be just suspect vehicle. And if you heard during the press conference, the occupants of the vehicle. So I think there's more than one suspect vehicle. And they framed Brian for the murders. Because if he actually did it, and if you knew that he did it, why'd you let him drive 2,500 miles across the country? Why didn't you just bring him in for questioning? Because apparently you tagged his vehicle, allegedly, supposedly, on November 29th. So why didn't you bring him in for questioning? Why did you let this person drive 2,500 miles across the country? And if you really thought he did it, why didn't you arrest him when he was taking out the trash at his mom and dad's house? Why did the FBI and the SWAT team have to destroy their house on a pre-dawn raid? What I'm starting to think is, the reason why they did the pre-dawn raid, they were trying to stick it to Brian. Okay, well, if you want to do this in the early hours in the morning, fine. We'll do it to you in the early hours of the morning, even though it wasn't his freaking house. It was his parents' house, and they destroyed it. And I bet you anything, the FBI didn't reimburse him for the damage to the house. The SWAT team didn't reimburse him for the damage to the house. If they did, if the FBI or the Pennsylvania SWAT team did, let me know down in the comments. But we need to basically zone out what Nancy Grace says, because it's highly obvious to me she's being paid to spin this narrative. I don't know who she's being paid by. Honestly, I don't. But she's being paid to spin a narrative that's false. Like always, guys, like, subscribe, and comment on my channel. Hit that bell notification for any new uploads. And make sure you click all for all my deep dives and my rants. And this is Robert with True Crime Podcast. I'm out, and peace. Have a good Sunday, guys.
When you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior.